Coming up this week on the Nintendo Directors Podcast, we talk about Bandai Namco's possible Switch exclusives, the potential for an extended life cycle for the console, and we wax nostalgic over the excellent soundtrack from the N64 classic Banjo Tooie. All this and more right now.
Hi, I'm Mark.
And I'm Brad.
We're two middle school band directors.
And you're listening to
Nintendo Directors. Hello and welcome once again to another Nintendo Directors podcast episode. This is episode 3016, if I can actually speak for once today, and it is going to be February 22nd of the year 2018 when you get this into your ear holes. And today we are recording on February 18th, so if anything comes out between now and then, well, tough. And anyways, I'm Mark Lego, and I'm here with my co-host Brad Beyer. We wave sticks at kids for a living, and we are going to be talking to you about lots of cool things Nintendo related today, and maybe non-Nintendo. Probably all Nintendo. I don't know. Whatever.
Mostly Nintendo. Yeah.
Mostly Nintendo.
It says Nintendo Directors.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, go ahead.
No, actually, I got nothing. I was a little concerned there because I didn't hear you for a second. So.
Oh, okay. No, yeah. So I did want to let you know that I just got a box of this really good cereal, and you're probably thinking I'm going to talk about Mario cereal, but I'm not. It's like this shredded wheat, but it's like mini wheats, but it's like peanut butter chocolate. It's amazing. It's really good. So yeah,
peanut butter chocolate in the mini wheat.
Yeah, it's really good.
Is it still frosted on the outside?
No, it's not frosted. It's just like this chocolatey, peanut buttery mini wheat. I don't even know what it's called, but it's really good. That was my dinner tonight. It was yummy.
That sounds delicious.
I thought I would share it with you and all those listening. So
excellent. Thank you so much for your eating habits. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I do what I can. So, all right, we're gonna get into this episode. So
next week from Nintendo cereal or Nintendo dinners.
We already reviewed one cereal, so we might as well just review them all.
Okay. That's right. Look what you started.
I know. All right. So, anyways, we're going to get going with this. So, next up is we got to start with the news. So, Brad, take it away.
This news this week is brought to you by the ones pulling the strings.
All right, the news. Brad, why don't you take what's up first?
Okay, the first story, and these aren't in any particular order. They're just kind of how I found them, I guess. I guess that's sort of an order. It says this is via IGN. Ridge Racer, a series which we have not seen in a very long time, but a popular series, especially from the 90s, I think, is potentially coming back, and it's one of two possible exclusives. This story is actually sort of paired with another one that was sort of an update to this later. So essentially what happens is I believe it was another one of those situations where somebody who was working on something, posts on their LinkedIn or they're just a job type website, that they've been working on, or maybe a resume or whatnot, that they've been working on a racing game of some kind, and I forget exactly how they connected it to Ridge Racer. They might have said explicitly Ridge Racer, but they were more suspicious or coy about the other one. They just said they are working on a potential first-person shooter game, or as it was more accurately described as just like a first-person adventure game, which is a very interesting description, because that, of course, that term was originally coined back in the days when Metroid Prime first came out. So, obviously, the suspicion is that Bandai Namco. By the way, that's the company. That's the company that this worker was from. So the rumor then is, of course, that Bandai Namco is not only working on two Switch exclusives, which is what was also indicated in this article. One of them being potentially Ridge Racer, and the other one being the Metroid Prime that we've all been so excited about. But we haven't known exactly who has been developing that for a long time. So, and I believe, so later on, a couple of days later, after, certain outlets reached out for comment, they apparently got confirmation, or at least all but confirmation, I guess, that yes, this is Metroid Prime that Bandai Namco is working on. So that's cool. I mean, Bandai
okay with
Namco has
that.
a pretty close relationship with Nintendo. Has been working with them for a long time. Obviously they worked on the last Smash Brothers game and several other titles. What
I'm
do you
really
think, Mark?
I'm really hoping for Metroid Prime 4 to involve more taking of orders, and I'm just
Right?
like other M. I just
Totally.
actually no. I'm really hopeful for Metroid Prime 4, and Bandai Namco is definitely a studio with enough person power to be able to do it justice. I hope that they don't mess it up, and I don't think they will. So
True.
I'm very hopeful for it. I did see that they were also, I read somewhere, I can't remember where, but they're also leaning heavily towards adding a pretty hefty multiplayer component, online multiplayer, which I
hadn't heard that.
I would be A-okay with that. I remember you could do multiplayer on Metroid Prime 2.
Yeah.
Which I really liked that, especially with the
Local only, of course, but
local only, yeah. But it was a lot of fun, and
because that was
right. That yes, that was GameCube. So
yeah.
but yeah, no. So if they go with a really good online multiplayer, I'd be okay with that on this as well. But yeah, Ridge Racer and Metroid Prime, Bandai Namco. I'm 100% on board with those two rumors.
Yeah, totally. And excuse me. Of course, anything Metroid, sets the news ablaze, if you will.
Yes,
although even if it's not like a multi-bajillion seller, like a lot of other series, there's just something about it that has that special place, especially for the hardcore Nintendo fan. That's it's just a really special series. And so yeah, you're right. They definitely should not mess it up.
Yeah, and I feel like there's two generations of Metroid players. Those who jumped in with either Metroid or Super Metroid, and then there's the people who jumped on board with Prime, and
which was me.
Okay, yeah, and the thing is, I feel like the people that it doesn't matter where you jumped in, you can play either version. Like you can either do the first person Prime stuff, or you can go back and do the side scrolling stuff. Whatever you're doing second, you still love both. Like that, it's not like it. I don't know.
Although I wouldn't necessarily recommend playing the very first Metroid game as your first Metroid experience. I mean,
at this point, no.
That one hasn't aged super well. Especially, and honestly, I haven't played it, and it's definitely on my list. But Metroid Zero Mission, which is sort of a remake of Metroid Prime 1, I just hear nothing but rave reviews about that game. Like that's the definitive way to play the original Metroid, as far as I understand. But yeah, so if you want to jump into, if you haven't played any Metroid, definitely start with either Metroid Prime or Super Metroid. Those are just the definitive experiences. Like I said, I started with Metroid Prime, and that just blew my mind. Like it was
so good.
And honestly, I think that, I really hadn't played any Castlevania games or anything before that either. So the whole Metroidvania aspect, that was really where I was kind of introduced to it. The idea of getting the items and then backtracking and going to areas you couldn't make it before and all that. So that was where I was really introduced to all that stuff, which maybe makes me sound young to some people and not so young to others. But yeah,
yeah,
it is what it is. I went back later and played Super Metroid.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, Super Metroid is, again, that's in my top 10. So that game is amazing. But so yeah. Cool stuff from Bandai Namco, rumored, but almost certainly confirmed at this point. It seems like all but confirmed. So
there you go.
Yeah. All right. Next up in the news, Nintendo says the ability to pay with My Nintendo Gold points on the Switch eShop is coming in March, and I don't even know how many of these I have, and I don't know what they'll be worth. But I imagine once this actually happens, it'll become much more tangible to me, and I'll understand what I've been doing with these surveys that get me coins and whatnot.
Okay, have you been still doing surveys? Have you been turning in things?
I just did one. What did I do it on? Oh, shoot, I should really know this. It was a game I just downloaded recently. It wasn't... I don't know.
Quest? Doom?
It was... It might have been Doom. I don't know.
Not sure.
I can't remember. It might have been 9 Parchments. I think it was 9 Parchments. So...
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
But yeah, go ahead.
Gosh, honestly, I really haven't been paying attention to my coins or whatever, because from the very beginning, it just got really complicated. There's
Right.
like the gold points and the platinum points and the Super Mario Run points and the Fire Emblem points and the Animal Crossing points, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, what? Who thought this was a good idea?
Right.
And how are you supposed to know what to do with what? And but I guess the most important thing are the gold points, really, because they're the ones that can be turned into other things. That being said, up until now, the quote rewards you could buy with those gold points have been just stupid.
Yes, they have.
And so this is finally that big step where you can actually buy back or get a certain percentage back and buy new games with that, which that's finally cool, rather than and of course Nintendo, I love Nintendo, but they're so in a world of Steam of 80% discounts and 90%, just you can have 20% off this $60 game. Congratulations.
Yep. And that's 20% off of the first $20. After that, right. Wait, so it's $4 off? Oh, okay.
Maybe if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So they this is good. I mean, obviously, I guess your points don't last forever. So if you bought Zelda and maybe another game or two at launch, like this early March, that's basically when you need to use them by. So
right.
If you're keeping an eye on that, make sure you're ready to jump in there right away as soon as it launches, so that you can make good use of that. I honestly haven't done any surveys or officially turned in any anything. Although, do you do that through the website? Do you do that?
Yeah, I get an email and then I just do it on my phone. So I think we're having some connection issues again.
Huh. Yeah, I can still see it.
I don't know. Okay, all right. So yeah, I do it on my phone. I get an email and then I just follow the link and I just enter it in. But I get.
I'll have to look. I might have signed it up for one of my junk emails.
Oh, okay. Yeah, again, I don't know how much I'm getting from this. I might be getting 10 coins, or I might be getting 100 for every survey, and I don't know if those survey again, I don't know if 10 coins is a lot. I don't know if 100 coins is a minuscule amount. So I'm getting something from these surveys. I just don't know what it's going to be. So anyways.
Well, they updated it a little bit, the story says, and essentially, let's see if I can pull it up here. It was like, if for digital games, you get 5%. Let's see. How many gold points you get per purchase is changing. The new exchange rates for digital and physical games. So yeah, for downloads, you get, for Switch games, DLC, etc., you get 5% of the total amount paid. And then for game, like physical cards, you get 1%. And then somebody else, there was an update again on the site. This is by My Nintendo, by the way. And they said in Europe anyway, 1 gold point equals 1 cent. So if you have 500 gold points, you can buy a game that costs €5 with those points, or get a €5 discount on a more expensive game. So.
Okay. So.
Does that make sense?
They're worth something. Okay.
Yeah. Something, yes. Which, I guess technically they're not obligated to give us anything back, but history is history, and occasionally you would get.
Yes, they are.
The Wii U.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're obligated. Everyone else is doing it. Peer pressure, Nintendo. Come on. Tangible benefits. I mean, besides the amazing games.
Right.
And amazing consoles and memories and all that. Tangible benefits, Nintendo. Okay.
I don't know. I miss the physical stuff from Club Nintendo. Soundtracks and stuff. Yeah.
Right. So many weird things that you just could not get anywhere else. It's kind of sad.
Totally. But, although they probably didn't make a ton of money on that at all.
That's
shipping
true.
is
but that's okay.
But if you just give you a discount, then that's instant and easy and all that. So, and I'll take it too. So, if you get a new game for every however many you buy, sure, great.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, why don't you take the next one?
All right, ready to move on here. Good. Again, I think we're still having a little bit of lag on the side here, so we apologize if this seems a little bit slightly off there for our listeners, but I can still see you, Mark, which is great.
Cool.
Anyway, so this next story is all about Mario Kart and the Mario Kart, the mobile game that's coming eventually next year, I think. And it's basically just a small update to what they were saying before, and that is that it will be, quote, free to start, end quote. So
I'm okay with
basically what I expected, probably, yeah. My question is, if it's free to start, and then obviously they'll have microtransactions and stuff, I wonder if there's going to be an option also, again, this is probably unlikely, but I wonder if there would also be an option to go the Super Mario Run route.
That's what I'm hoping
just
for.
Be able to purchase the game outright. Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, I hate microtransactions. I love. Here's what the game is like. Do you like it? Buy it for $10. Buy it for $15. I don't care what the price is. Just that's my hope.
Yep, but again, considering the all things considered flop that Mario Run was compared to the Fire Emblem or Animal Crossing games, then it's most likely not going to happen that way. But a man can dream.
What if it's pay for fuel? And you have to go to the gas station and fuel up, and it's
oh boy,
you get one half of a race on a tank. You need to refuel mid-race. $5.
Yeah, you're guaranteed to win every race as long as you can finish it.
Yeah. Oh man, that would be the worst. Nintendo, don't do that.
Oh man. Yeah, I remember years ago reading a sort of a sarcastic article when microtransactions were first kind of getting started, and they were like, yeah, because the whole horse armor thing had happened, and they're like, why don't we start paying for air in BioShock, and why don't we do all these different this sounds like a really good idea for publishers. They would make so much money. Let's see how far we can take this.
Just watch the character on screen struggling for breath, just crump down on their knees, gasping for air.
Just $1. I just need $1. Help me. I need
just $1 of air. Come on. This is all
you horrible monster. You made me 20 hours into this, and now you're going to let me die because of drown in a puddle?
That would be awesomely terrible of any publisher. You've reached the point in the game 50 hours in where you need to start buying oxygen.
Congratulations.
The atmosphere wore away. Kind of a weird game mechanic. Yeah.
Arrived, yeah.
By the way, you've invested enough time in this game now that you were going to fork over money. We know. So. Oh, man, that'd be awful. Oh. All right, well, let's move on. Next news item. So the Nintendo's looking to extend the normal console life cycle with the Switch, which is something that you found that and added it to the news list, and I had read that as well, and that is something that I just about stood up and applauded. I gave Nintendo a standing ovation in my kitchen when I was eating my breakfast that morning when I read that. I was like, that is great to hear, because the Wii U was a shortened cycle, so I'd like this one to be a little bit longer.
Now here's the question mark. Do you think they can actually do it, or is this just kind of marketing speak? Because, I mean, honestly, the Switch is a huge success, and, Nintendo does a brilliant job of making their games look good, with their art styles and just look amazing, and yet it technically, or on a technical level, it's a little bit behind, especially the newest, the PlayStation Pro and the the Xbox One X. And so if they're talking 5, 6, 7, 8 years even, can it do that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that,
unless they're just talking about adding revisions later on, because there's rumors of that too.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, think about this. With how good Breath of the Wild looked, and that was not maxing out the Switch. That was maxing out the Wii U.
Right.
So with how good Breath of the Wild looked, try to project yourself 8 years down in the future, down the line. Can you picture yourself playing that and thinking this is a great game?
Oh, of course.
And it does. Do you think it would look good? Because
I think so. Those art styles are timeless. My concern are, because I say Nintendo does a fantastic job with that stuff. Mario Kart 8 came out on the Wii U, which is a little less powerful than the Switch, and it still looks fantastic because they nailed the aesthetic of it. My fear are for we are, because of the success, we are getting more ports and things. We get Doom, we get the new Colossus coming soon, and
when
some of those games are struggle. Yeah, when do those start to be less viable? And when does it start becoming the Wii again, in terms of just a half style or halfway port,
where we just get shovelware left and right. Yeah, I think I think it really does. Maybe not. I don't know. I was gonna say it depends on how well it sells. But the Wii sold like bananas. But I also think that a lot of people bought the Wii, and that was maybe their first console where they weren't buying a lot of the heavy hitters. Whereas if the dedicated gamer is buying the Switch, I think that there are still going to be a number of games tailored toward what the Switch can deliver in terms of sales numbers.
Right.
So
I
think the next. Because a lot of the big heavy hitters have come out for the Switch in the first year, and you got a few, not as many this year, not as many huge names, but you got some big ones coming this year. If they can deliver for another year or two, they're gonna keep bringing in the dedicated gamer. But I think it's a big 2 or 3 years for Nintendo right now coming up.
Sure.
So,
and like I said, it's very possible they'll just take the DS kind of philosophy. The DS evolved through iteration over for a long time. So I guess you could say that they could if it's a Switch 1.5 or Switch 2.0 or whatever, it's still the same thing rather than a whole different console, and they could technically get away with that. It's not, but it's by no means certain. But it's looking like neither of the other big two publishers, Microsoft and Sony, are not looking at this point into putting a full production line together of something like the Switch.
Right.
The PlayStation 4 is still very successful, and Xbox has kind of got their own thing. It seems like they would be a little bit foolish to try to jump into the handheld markets at this time, especially since they just released the X and all this stuff. So there's not a ton of competition in that sense. But yeah, if Nintendo, kind of like they did with the DS or the 3DS, they release some iterations over the next couple of years, they could kind of own that part of the market, I guess. So
yeah,
we shall see.
Yes, indeed. So all right, why don't you take the next news item?
Cool. So this is just and I already forgot the person who mentioned it. Some executive. Let me see if I can grab it really quick.
Yeah,
was talking in an interview. Let's see. I'm gonna butcher this. Shinya Takahashi. There we go. Shinya Takahashi, and he's the managing executive officer for Nintendo. In an interview, was talking about how they, with regarding their online service, which was recently pushed back to September. They're basically just saying, hang in there. The time that it's taking is going to be worth it in the end.
And the next online service announcement, will be worth the wait.
Totally. And, they have been sitting on this for a long time now. A long time now.
Very long time.
Granted, they've been giving a basic service for free, so that's a plus. Excuse me. And they've had a ton of success without it, so that's good. But yeah, I mean, we've heard so little about it. We just heard that basic, the service of some slightly updated old school games with some online functionality, and obviously just the ability to play online in general. but we just have so few details about it. So
Right.
it just seems like I feel like they have to be building more than just trying to get a stable online infrastructure down. Like that's definitely part of it, and we want it to be reliable. But it just seems like it leans more towards. It makes me think anyway that they're leaning towards like starting a whole new system, like potentially like a Netflix style subscription service,
Right.
which would be sweet, and has been long, theorized about potentially. Again, totally speculation here, but again, it just seems to be taking so long. I feel like it's got to be something brand new and potentially revolutionary that they work on. You never know.
Yeah, I would. Man, and they're at this point with the wait. I'm expecting something huge. It has to be more than just standard fare. Like so,
Right.
and they said that it will be worth the wait. So I'm hopeful. Yeah. So we'll see.
Totally.
Exciting. So
speaking of exciting, I'm excited about this next story, and that is that there is a remaster coming of Da Blob.
Yes.
Are you familiar with Da Blob, Mark?
Not very, no.
Oh, dude, it is a gem of the Wii library. Da Blob is just this totally wacky, crazy, unique platformer, sort of, kind of platformer. And there was a sequel to it. It was called Da Blob 2, very original, but just super fun. Basically, you're this big blob, obviously, as the name implies, and the world has been taken over by these evil people who love monochrome and everything. The whole world's been turned black and white, and your job is to just blob yourself around there and give color to the world. And you meet lots of different people of different, and you can change paint and colors and all this stuff. And so you're just jumping around this world trying to give color to everything, and you can fight these enemies and stuff. But one of the things that was most memorable about this game when I first played it years ago was the soundtrack, because it was totally dynamic based on what you were doing in the game. And first of all, it was a very kind of hip jazz selections of tunes, and it would be like this kind of background track going on, like a rhythm, like a jazz rhythm section playing, and then whatever, depending on what color you were, it would be like an improvised solo on a different instrument. So let's say you were spreading red around, and maybe that was for the saxophone. And so you'd hear just this little saxophone voice every now and then chiming in, just doing what sounded like an improvised solo. But the more you painted and the more vibrant the world became, the more exciting and the more fun the music became. The solo really took shape and really started to really groove. So I thought it was a really fun system, and it just added a whole other element of fun to the actual platforming and just going around that world. So
right, yeah. No, I was just looking at some pictures while you were talking about it. Yeah, and I remember seeing this being sold, but I had never played it. So, anyways, it looks cool. So go ahead.
I say I don't know exactly. Let's see. I can't remember if the article said when exactly it was coming, but it let's see. It just says 2018. But yeah, I may definitely have to relook at that again because that was super fun to play through.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
Just some unique ideas. It was cool.
Yeah.
So,
speaking of remakes, I saw a friend who Secret of Mana, the remake just came out for PS4, and a friend of mine, it just came out I think on Friday. A friend of mine just posted a screenshot of the end game, so he marathoned it over the weekend.
Wow.
Yeah. So speaking of remakes and remastered games, that's what I'm still holding out hope comes to the Switch at some point. So
okay.
But
very cool.
That's not news. Other than I know someone who didn't do anything this weekend productive.
Speaking of news, we got more news.
We do have more news.
These two stories are kind of related to each other, and that is that two companies Ubisoft and EA, respectively, are pretty happy with the sales of a game on Switch. And the first one, Ubisoft, of course, was very pleased with the sales of Mario Rabbids, and they intend to do more. And then EA was actually satisfied with the sales for FIFA on Switch, and they intend to do more.
Didn't they sell like 2 copies of FIFA on the Switch?
7.
7. All right. Hey, they're easy to please.
So it's better, No, honestly, I mean, I'm very happy about the first one with Mario Rabbids.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome, and I didn't play a ton of it. I did play an hour or two. It was fun, just not super my style.
Sure.
But
that's on the docket for me over spring break. I'm gonna go finish it. So.
Okay, cool. And so I'm happy that they're gonna dive back into that. Obviously they got a very passionate team there that really really enjoyed that, and so obviously people are into it. So that's great. The FIFA one doesn't. I mean, I'm happy about it. I guess I look back at that, and I think we talked about this before in a previous episode months ago, how we were kind of frustrated that EA was using FIFA on the Switch as sort of a base, as a guideline, right, for what their future support would be like, when really it was sort of a dumbed down port. Like it didn't have
it was
all,
a shell
all
of the game. Yeah,
exactly. It didn't have, especially the main thing was that it didn't have the single player mode, which for me was the most enticing thing about FIFA in the last 5 years.
Right. It's like, we're going to give you FIFA Turd Edition and see how that sells. And it's like, come on.
Right. Yeah, and so the fact that it did sell enough is both cool and, like, praise the Lord, because I want more to come from that, and I want, full versions of the game to happen. Whether it's FIFA or maybe Madden again. Maybe we'll see Madden on a Nintendo system again. That'd be sweet. Or any of the other, sports. NHL. I would love NHL. Or all those things. So it'd be cool. And this is a similar situation to what we had with, what was it? The Street Fighter with Capcom, when it was like very early on. They released the Street Fighter 2 port, which was like overpriced and
way
underfeatured, and and yet so we were kind of frustrated that they were using that as their litmus test, but we that did apparently sell quite a few copies, and so they're now they're bringing that, like, Street Fighter 2 in every variation it's ever been on to everything now. So again, this has all turned out well, but it's been based on decisions that were kind of like,
it worked in the end. So yeah, it
is what it is. So hey, it worked out. Now the last story I marked here, I don't think we'll actually end up doing that one. It was kind of just an overall, and I didn't get a full look at it.
That'll be our preview for everyone. We were going to talk about Nintendo Labo, but since that's getting closer to release, we'll just we'll hold off on talking about that
for now. Yeah. So that's cool.
Why don't we get into our next segment, which is what we've been playing. All right, what we've been playing. I've got a few things, but I'll wait on those. So, I'll start. All right. I have hit 698 power moons in Mario Odyssey. And
that's a lot.
It is, yeah. How many can you buy?
It's
like 100?
100, yeah. 160, maybe, almost.
Oh, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I'm doing okay then. I actually completed my first kingdom, which is, surprise, Cloud Kingdom, which only has 9, I think, total. But I completed it.
Nice.
Yeah, but I've been just going back and getting a moon here and there, and cool. Yeah, it's getting to the point where some of them I don't know how I'm gonna find them, so whatever. but it's fun.
Yeah, I think there's 840 moons, if I'm not mistaken, that are total, and then you can buy up to 999. And
I've probably bought like 30 of them. So outside of the singular ones you buy when you first make it to each kingdom. So
right.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've completed a couple really difficult ones, yeah, still really enjoying Mario Odyssey. I don't know if I would ever not enjoy playing that game. So, but yeah, so doing that. I haven't done any Breath of the Wild DLC since the last episode, but I have played a bit more Cat Quest. Which every time I say it, I feel that, like, there's a part of me that says you should feel embarrassed saying those words, but I'm okay with it. I'm accepting it. But it's fun. It's really fun. There's some really good humor in it. So I'm enjoying that. I've also played, I think it's called Aces of Luftwaffe, Waffe or something. I don't know. Anyways,
Right.
that's a top-down shooter, kind of in the vein of 1942, 1943. With some story elements that are a little bit kind of lame and kind of just like stereotypical characters. It's like, here's this guy and he's going to be like this, and it's like, okay, yep.
He's the angry drill sergeant.
Right. So, but I mean, on the whole, it's been a lot of fun. I've probably put 2 hours into that, maybe, give or take. I've also played a game that I just downloaded called Wheels of Aurelia.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah,
it's some other people talking about it online.
It's interesting. I actually played it from beginning to end. Took about 15 minutes.
Whoa.
Yeah, but it's a story-driven game, and I use the word driven as well because you're driving through Italy, and so I've been playing that, and you're driving through the Italian countryside and through different cities, and the driving is it's fun. But it's not a major part. It's a little bit wonky how the driving works, but that's not really the point of it. It's about going through the journey of this story, and you do make choices that really profoundly affect. Apparently, I was reading up on it because I finished in 15 minutes. I was like, huh. That was kind of cool, I guess, and I got it on sale for $5. So, but you can play through it. I think there are 16 different endings to get. So,
wow.
I might play through it one more time. It was enjoyable on a very relaxing level, and not much beyond that. But aesthetically, it's really cool, and the music is really cool in it. But yeah, so that's. I had a little fun with a couple indie games with Aces of Luftwaffe and with Wheels of Aurelia, but I would definitely advise not buying either of those games if they're not on sale. They're on sale, gets. Don't get them at full price, but and I think that's about it. I want to say I've played something else, but maybe I haven't. Probably haven't. Anyways, so that's what I've been playing. How about you, Brad?
Yeah. Once again, you play the short games. I've got all the long ones. So I'm still just, and honestly, this last week or two, I haven't had a ton of time to play.
Okay, let's be clear. You've chosen to walk everywhere in Breath of the Wild. That's on you. So you're on like hour 3,000.
And I'm loving every minute of it.
Who wouldn't? But
I'm still, still committed to finding all those Korok seeds and the shrines, and I still got like 30 shrines left. And I'm telling you, man, there's just nothing better when you're going through an area you've been through before, and all of a sudden you find just one little opening in a mountain or something, and you find a shrine that you never saw before, or maybe that you saw the shrine before but you couldn't figure out the puzzle at the time. So then you're just like, then you were like, oh, I'll come back to this, and then you finally come back to this, and then, but in the meantime, I'm collecting more stuff. I'm upgrading my armor and doing all this great stuff. So I'm in no hurry. That game is just, Zelda is just so beautiful and wonderful, and
it's the most special game I've ever played.
It's just amazing. I just can't get enough of it. like and even in times where I'm just like, okay, I can put this down for a while. I'll play some other things for a little bit, but I always come back to it because it's just, like you say, it's magical, and so that's really what I've been playing. Although it did, there was a kind of interesting story. I guess it wasn't a rumor. It was confirmed because it was another interview with the director, one of the head directors of the game. Last name. Oh, I always butcher this. Fujibayashi, I think.
Sure.
And I guess Fujibayashi-san, as they say.
Yes.
And apparently, this is just a kind of a fun tidbit. Apparently, they were actually considering allowing you or giving you the ability to control the weather in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Which I guess in the end they decided that it wasn't going to be in the game because it actually made it less fun, or like, having the random aspect of the weather actually made it more engaging because it really makes you feel more like you're actually at the mercy of the wild, if you will.
Yep.
And I'm so glad that they chose to do that, or that they chose not to do that, I guess is a better way to put it.
Yeah. Same.
Because I think they're right. When you're just out and it starts to rain, when you're trying to make a fire, bummer.
Yep.
But at the same time, you're like...
It forces you to look. It forces you to find an outcropping of rock to go under and make a fire.
Totally.
Or figure out how to wait it out or get out of there. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's such an interesting concept. Like, you just never know all the things that were turned down in the game development process. Right. And what a game could have or might have been in a different world, Right.
I want to talk about that really quick with the rain. There was one point when I found an outcropping of rock to make a fire under to try to wait out a storm. And it was in the southern half of the map in this jungly area where there's this...
Where it always rains?
Yes.
Yes.
And I tried to wait that storm out for like entirely way too long. Like to the point where I'm like...
Wasted all your wood.
Yes. I'm just like... I probably built 10 campfires. I was like, this is the most insane luck ever. All right, I'm going to wait until the following morning now. I'm going to sleep a 24-hour cycle. That's got to change the weather. And then I wake up, I'm like, how's it raining again? I need to play the lottery because I'm like getting the most small chance of this. And then I found out, no, it's just, there's something that you need to do right there. So, yeah. Yeah. So I'm glad I couldn't control the weather right there. That was kind of nice.
There you go. That's funny.
So
yeah, but that's what I've been playing. I've been playing Zelda, still just eating that game up. I hit hour 150 recently.
Nice.
And I'll probably play another 150 at least.
Yeah. It has that. Well, with walking, you might hit another 1,050, but that's, I really, you should consider like getting a Twitch channel and just streaming it, and the amount of frustration from viewers who would be like, just warp, dude, just warp. It would be awesome. And you're just like, no, this is great. This is real.
Right. Hey, side note, I'm just kind of curious. What so I asked this on Facebook recently, or on Twitter and Facebook recently. Like, what are maybe one or two of your favorite areas that you can think of in the map in Breath of the Wild?
Oh man,
I'll give you a second to think. My like favorite area is actually that southern coastline along, I guess southeastern coastline where Lurelin Village is, and just like the tropical area. It does rain a lot, but man, so many amazing sunsets, and so just like peaceful, and just there's the beaches there. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, for me, it's wow. It's either going to be Terrytown, the way that those slopes that just go up on these steep angles, and like the way you pan the camera and you're like, wait, I'm not
around the corner.
Yeah, and you're just stumbling across like super tough enemies every once in a while, and it's just like that's an area that is cool to look at, but incredibly dangerous, especially early in the game if you get up there fairly early. But I think for me, it would be that, or oh man, Rito Village is. Oh man, I don't know. There's so much good. I think when I finally made it to Hateno Village, because when I watched my Hero Quest playthrough on the DLC, and you could see everywhere you went on the map.
Right.
I spent an insane amount of time early game using Kakariko as my base, and like venturing out a little bit, and then like warping back to Kakariko, save. Okay, done for the night. I'm safe. I'm in Kakariko, and then, I spent probably fully 40 hours of the game going back to Kakariko and not really branching out too far. But my next stop was Hateno Village. After I ventured up to Hyrule Castle really quick, and I remember watching that, and then like die a bunch of times on the playthrough, and then like warp back to Kakariko. Good, got the warp point, and then I went to Hateno, which was it's like, as is the case with any place in that game, but it was my first time experiencing like a wholly unique environment where I'm like, wow, this game is very diverse. Like I wasn't expecting it to be that different. It just it had a different feel to it. So I think it would be between Hateno and Terrytown, which if you've played the game, you know the relation between those two areas anyways. So
yeah. I think, honestly, the villages or towns in general, because they are so sparse and so they're just really special.
Yeah.
And you get, I always make a point, just go in every building, meet every person, talk to every, just like, it's just a really quaint area. Obviously you can stock up on supplies and stuff too, but they're just really cool. Like I said, when I didn't discover Lurelin Village on that southern coast until 40, 50 hours in, something like that.
I bet I was double that. I was just like, there's another village down here? I had no clue. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That was definitely my last village to discover. I had made it to Goron Village early. I fried getting there, but I made it.
That's right, the applesauce story. I remember that.
But yeah,
long-time listeners will remember.
Yep. But yeah, Lurelin Village was the last one I discovered. I had no idea it even existed. So that was a major surprise and really cool. Cool. Gosh, that game is so good. All right. I was going to go watch a movie with my wife after we were done recording, but maybe I'll just say, hey, why do you want to watch me play Breath of the Wild?
Let's just go revisit. Yeah.
I don't think that would go over well. I'll try it, but whatever.
Probably not.
On next week's episode, I'll let you know how my wife and I are doing.
And how many couches you're sleeping on.
Yeah, yep. We bought a new futon.
Very good.
Anyways, all right. So,
all right, time to move on.
Yeah, next up, we've got a soundtrack review, and this is going to be a Brad special. You're going to be reviewing, which game is it? We announced it earlier. But.
That's right. It's called Banjo Tooie. Many of you have probably heard it if you're a Nintendo fan. It's an old Rare classic from the N64 days, and it's got some cool tunes. I will talk in more detail about it once we get there, but it's also, the composer is the same composer as a lot of games, from Yooka-Laylee to Mario Rabbids, Grant Kirkhope. He's been in the industry for a long time now, and he does a great job on stuff. So we're gonna do sort of a retrospective on that, and then we'll come back and do a little wrap up.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Hey everybody, this is Brad Beyer from the Nintendo Directors, here with a little review, or maybe just more of a retrospective of the N64 classic Banjo Tooie, and that is the soundtrack for this game. This game has a treasured part of my gaming past. I remember spending hours and hours and hours playing when I was a young teenager, trying to get every collectible in the whole game, and it's just a super fun adventure, very full of the classic Rare wit and humor, and but one of the things that sticks out to me most about my experience was the soundtrack itself, and it really was one of the first works that I was familiar with from a guy named Grant Kirkhope. And he's, of course, the composer for a lot of those early Rare games, from Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo Tooie to Donkey Kong 64, and even the early Donkey Kong Country games. And he's written a lot of other games too. You see some of his most recent work in games like Yooka-Laylee and the recently released. Sorry, I'm blanking on it. It's the Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battles, and he has a very similar style that he writes in with a lot of his music, but it's always based on melody, and he has a great ear for writing a simple melody that you can sing, you can hum, and I think that shows itself very, very clearly in a lot of the music that he wrote for Banjo Tooie. And so I just remember being I remember my cousin and I, we actually sat down with our with just like a straight up microphone, and we put it next to the TV, our old CRTV, and we would we just recorded tunes on it, and that's how I kind of listened to some of that music. I was able to put it on my computer and some of those other things for a long time, just so I had those files. This is way before YouTube and some of those, or even licensed soundtracks usually that just didn't really do that very much for games. So anyway, we're gonna get into some of these tunes, but just some general things about, like I said, in general, Kirkhope's writing, very, very melody based. I really like his great use of orchestral instruments, despite the fact that it was often based on, it was all with the tech at the time. It's all MIDI music, and yet he orchestrates things really well. Using a good balance of the woodwinds and the brass, and depending on what exactly he's going for, and just kind of for fun, he seems to have a fascination with very low instruments. I can think of several tunes from his games that I've played over the years that just feature like an outright solo for a contrabassoon or a tuba or a bari sax, or just these very low instruments, which is just very kind of comical. And again, that kind of fits a lot with the style of the games that they're playing, these sort of plucky, usually 3D platformers with these fun wacky characters and stuff. So he just writes very much within the style of the game that he's writing for. So I like it a lot. So we're going to listen to 4 tunes here from Banjo Tooie that just remind me, that just bring back lots of great memories for me. The first one is from the village, and this is I believe it's called Jinjo Village, and it's one of the first areas that you show up in, and it's just, again, it sets the tone for the entire adventure that you're about to go on, and again, just like that opening area, hey, let's go on an adventure and save the princess, sort of mentality. So it's got this sort of nice little flute melody going on, and then it kind of echoes in some of the, I don't even know if that would be a clarinet or some variation of another type of flute, but it's just really, really happy. You just listen to this for a second. It's great. Same melody again in the lower octave. And again, there's that bass in the bottom. You can hear that. And here's those, again, more of those bass instruments. Maybe, again, this is kind of a synthesized sound of maybe like a bassoon or... and then, this is another aspect of his music that he does tend to use a lot of mallet instruments, a lot of marimbas and xylophones, and that's where that comes out right there. You just heard a little bit of that. So that was the village theme, and we're gonna move on to a little different style of piece. One of the things that I really respect about his music is that he makes a general theme for a world, and again, these 3D platformers, they were usually just broken up into straight up worlds. It's not like, more modern game sometimes where it's just all one giant world. You go into distinct different areas, and so what he does really well is he makes a theme for a world, and then depending on where you are within that world, there's different variations on that theme. And so, if you go into the spooky section of a world, the music gets all kind of filled with the spooky instrumentation and a little extra woo kind of stuff going on. The sound effects and the things that add to that effect. And so what the example I'm going to give you here is from a world called Grunty Industries, and this is in Banjo Tooie. Grunty, of course, is the lead antagonist. She is the evil witch who is basically out to get Banjo and take over the world and all that stuff. And so they're out to stop her in her evil deeds. And so she has this enormous factory, and this is one of the later worlds in the game. And there's different ways that you can get into it, but there's an outdoor area and there's an indoor area, and each of them has a different theme. So here's a little bit of the grunty industries in the outside. And it's just kind of a fun tune. You know, you got that trombone sound and the glissandos going up and down. Again, it's this area that Grunty, the evil witch, you know, she's running this factory of creating all these minions and stuff. And yet it's very lighthearted still. It's definitely not a lot, it's not super sinister. And you notice the melody of that. It's just going along. Now I'm going to transition this into... Oh, there's those xylophones and marimba that I was talking about before. They come up in a lot of his tunes. We're going to transition now to the indoor melody. Again, it's essentially the same melody. This is from a different part of the melody. This is that B section that you heard earlier. There's the main theme. So when you're inside, it has a little different. This is a little more, I don't know, like electronic feel or plucked string kind of feel, and that bass line, again, just a different feel for that. And obviously, this is not the first composer to do things like this. There have been plenty of games that have done this, but I think his music is just very catchy in this. All right, and then finally, we're going to transition into one more variation on this, and this is the boss theme from Grunty Industries. This is a guy named Weldar, and so when you're fighting Weldar, again, it's the same melody, but all of a sudden he changes. The accompaniment in the background, obviously much more intense. He's jumping out of the gate with this big brass fanfare, very intense kind of brass thing. And then once we get to the actual, you know, you can hear that main melody. In the B section, we're gonna hear the strings just kind of go crazy underneath. It's kind of hard to hear underneath the brass stuff there, but again, just creating that intensity, and yet still based on that main theme. This was actually probably my favorite tune in the whole game. Mainly for this part, this big, long, you know, low trombones and tubas and stuff. So it's a different riff on the main Grunty Industries theme, and you know, those lows kind of belt it out. So it's just really, really excellent writing. And then there's a totally different section that comes in there. In the concert band world, we have marches, concert band marches, and there's a section towards the end of most traditional marches that we call the dogfight section. That's what I would call this. Usually where you go back and forth between the brass and the woodwinds, or you kind of have this kind of more exciting, like forceful fanfare style, and then you're back to what you started at again. Cool. So just a fun example of the different variety, or the ways that he creates variety with using just one theme within one world. And so I got one more tune for you, and this is from another boss fight. His name is Klungo, and Klungo is a very lovable loser, as they're known. He's Gruntilda, I guess, the witch. He's her primary minion, and he's this, you know, classic sort of large and brutish minion that is not very bright, but he's just very lovable. And so you fight him several times throughout the game, and there's a great theme for him whenever you fight him, and it goes a little something like this. Again, with the low instruments, I think that's a low bari sax of some kind of fast moving. And you can hear the marimba, once again, providing some background accompaniment. think this really just complements his character quite a bit. You know, again, the kind of clumsy, laborious. You know, maybe this is a little bit faster than he would be. He's kind of slow, but sort of the comical nature of his character comes out through this music, and yeah, it's just charming and interesting to listen to. So just listen to this for a little more. Good. So that's sort of my soundtrack retrospective from Banjo Tooie. If you haven't played this game, you know, it's one of those N64 games that maybe the visuals and the frame rate and things haven't aged quite as well as they could, and yet it's still a lot of fun if you go back and play it. I know it was released on Xbox for was it Xbox 360? I think you can even still get it. Oh, you can get it on the Xbox One nowadays. Excuse me. If you go through the game Rare Replay, there's that both original Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo Tooie are on that. I almost said recording on that game. So there's definitely ways to play it, but I would definitely encourage you, especially if you never got to play it early. It's a product of its time, but it's definitely worth checking out, and the soundtrack just very memorable. So hope you enjoyed this look back at Banjo Tooie.
All right, well, we're back. So Brad, nicely done on that
you.
Soundtrack review. Yeah, and that's an assumption,
right?
But,
it's guaranteed, basically.
It is absolutely. It's always nice to do those things in post. So what? Anyways, all right. So let's get on with the show wrap up. Brad, take it away.
All right. Well, once again, we always want to thank you, faithful listeners, week in and week out. Well, every other week in and every other week out. For listening. You're all we all know you're in great company with the likes of Mr. Miyamoto and Mr. Kimishima and all those people we know that are tune in every time. Right.
Our regulars.
You know it's true. Right. So if you are a regular listener, we would very much appreciate if you would go onto iTunes and leave the show a review. It helps the show get some visibility and help more people experience what you get to every week. So we would appreciate you do that. You can find us on the Twitters at N_directors. You can find us on YouTube at our Nintendo Directors channel, and of course, Facebook and all those places. If you want to be part of the show, you can write into Nintendo Directors Podcast at gmail.com. And now that I think about it, I should do a quick check of this. 3, 2. Okay, we're good. So yeah, this is a twice a month show or every other week, and that means that our next show is going to record on. Let's see, this 22nd of this one. So, gosh, we're gonna be into March already. March 8th.
That's like great.
That's
crazy.
That's the time. And we're coming up on a full year here in July, I think. So, 3/4. Yeah, time's flying. How about that? Back in our younger days. Of course, this is just year 50. Yeah, it's just 3,000.
Yeah. Been a year, almost a year since our 3,000th episode, which is crazy.
That's right.
All right.
Very good.
Cool. Well, I think that just about does it. So
That's right. Thanks for listening.
Well, thanks for listening.
Have a great week.
Yeah. Catch you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.